All right, so we're going to be going over password managers today. At the beginning, I'm going to try and blaze through some of what we've covered in other classes, and then I'm also going to kind of go through how to set up a new password manager from the start.
Okay.
And we are also going to show a password manager that works for Windows computers. It also works for Mac computers, and we'll also show that it has a desktop application, a web-based application, and a browser extension. And I'll be right back. 1 second. Sorry about that. I have a lovely dog here, but she also likes to wiggle around, and all the necklaces can get kind of jarring. And by necklaces, of course, I mean the dog tags. She's accrued over 5 years. All right, so once again, I think Mary just went over this, but if you have any questions, feel free to try and hold them for as long as you possibly can. There will be a section before I go in to explain how a particular program works, where you can go and we'll unmute everybody, and then you can ask questions. And you can always type in the group chat, and Mary and I will monitor that. And any questions we see during the presentation, we'll kind of try and fit into the slide we're currently on. Also, if Mary has your email, you will get a link to both the slides and the presentation afterwards. And if you have a question that you don't think of while this is going on, feel free to kind of reach out to Mary afterward. And I will also update the slides with any questions that are received. And if we don't know the answer to a question, if Mary and I don't know the answer, I'll add a slide at the very end to kind of go over the questions that were asked and answered during the presentation. So let us begin.
Okay.
There is going to be a quick caveat that the information I give today may have actually changed since I finalized this presentation yesterday. So the information will always change. This is a very fast-moving part of the industry, and something I suggest today may not be the best suggestion for somebody tomorrow. I don't think that'll happen, but just in case, you look at this in a month from now, be sure to check out the slides, because if there's an update or I have an updated recommendation, I will implement that into the slides so you can stay up to date.
Okay.
Quickly, what is a password manager? And basically, a password manager is a software application used to store and manage a person's passwords. Functionally, what this allows you to do is you only need to remember one password, and then you don't care about remembering any other password because the password manager takes care of all that. So this will allow you to have very strong passwords and not need to remember all the very strong passwords. A question I often get asked is a password manager safe? And the answer to that is yes, and it's pretty much safer than any other way you can store passwords. It's much safer than a book that you can either lose or you can have stolen. If you keep this book in your purse or in your car, then someone can obviously take it. And if someone takes all of your passwords, then you're in real trouble. More specifically, a good password manager will be transparent about their security model. So they will kind of let people know what type of security they're using. The good ones will also have 256-bit AES encryption. If you want to go through afterward, or if you have a particular question on what that type of encryption is, I have a link that you can click on, or we can go through it together at the end. Another thing that makes a password manager safe, a good password manager, is a zero knowledge policy. And basically what this means is that the company has zero knowledge of what you put in the password manager. If you use a password manager, just be aware that the company really does have zero knowledge. And if you forget your password or you lose your password, your database is done. You can't get into it. And if you want to know why you can't get into it, the link above about the encryption will kind of give you a good understanding of that. Another thing good password managers will do is they will have security audits. You can think of this like a financial audit. You don't want a company to just be auditing themselves because they'll just give themselves a check mark. They bring in outside contractors to make the audit and to make sure the company is doing what they say they're doing. I went through and put together a comprehensive list of reasons not to use a password manager. So we're going to go over that. And a good reason not to use a password manager is if you don't use a computer. Apart from that, there's pretty much no reason I can think of why you shouldn't use a password manager. And yes, I was going for humor there. All right, so why should you want it? This is blatantly copied from a previous presentation we've done. And you can go over this, but this is just, a bullet point list of some reasons why you should want it. And we'll kind of go over this more organically while we go through how to set up a password manager. But I just wanted the list in one place in case you want to, just see some reasons in one place. Another question I get asked is my browser offers to save my passwords all the time. Can I just use that instead of like a dedicated password manager? And the answer to that is yes. A browser is better than nothing. And I made sure to put that in, bold and center that. The negatives associated with a browser are that it doesn't work across multiple operating systems sometimes if you're using a Mac. You can't work across multiple browsers because if you imagine, the Chrome, like Google keeping your passwords, is not going to share that information with Apple's Safari or Firefox. You generally can't share with family. So what this means is if you have a household with more than one person and you kind of want to share accounts, like you don't care who does the billing for Comcast, but it needs to get done. With certain password managers and certain browser extensions, you can't share that information with your significant other. The other benefit with sharing with family is just like in a corporation, because that's what families are these days, you can share just a subset of passwords. So you don't have to share everything. And if you use a browser extension, you essentially have to share everything with everyone you want to share a single password with. So if you want someone else to have their Netflix password, which I would never say you should do that because I believe that's against terms of service. But if you want to share the Netflix password with somebody in your family, they would have to have access to all of your passwords in your password database if you wanted to go that route. Browser extensions also can't store anything besides passwords, and we'll get to that later. And the biggest downside I have is just a quick example. If you're in a coffee shop and you have your laptop open and you are using it, and someone goes and sits down at your laptop, they open Chrome. As soon as they open Chrome, they now have access to all of your passwords. What different types of password managers are there? There are the online ones. So these are the ones that are only available when you're online. So that will be stuff like the built-in ones, like the iCloud keychain or Firefox or Chrome. There's the online ones that have free versions, such as Bitwarden. And there are online ones that are paid. So one thing to note is with these online versions, for example, Bitwarden, LastPass, and 1Password, they also have desktop applications where you can use them offline as well. Now for purely offline ones, so these are ones that don't connect to any central server, we have KeePass, and the other option is nothing. So the benefit of an offline password manager is that it's not online. So a company cannot be hacked and a person can't steal anything because it's on your computer. The negative of it being offline is, for example, I use an offline password manager. I use KeePass. So theoretically, if I am away from my computer and I desperately want to buy something on my phone, I can't because I don't have my passwords. So there's a big negative, but the benefit is you have total control of your data. So you're not sharing it with any other company. The third option is a hardware password manager. And for the purpose of this class, they pretty much don't exist because they are more annoying than the offline password managers. But just so you know, if you want to be the most secure person ever and have a super secure password manager, a hardware password manager is what you would want to get. And there's the first one, the Trezor, is generally one of the higher regarded ones. And if you want to look into that or ask questions about that, we can definitely do that kind of when we're going through stuff at the end. So the first thing you want to think about is when choosing a password manager is what features do I really need? And pretty much all of the password managers I've listed are able to do pretty much all of these things. So if you have multiple people, if you use your password manager on multiple devices, such as computer, phone, laptop, do you need to take notes, store files, automatically fill forms, generate random passwords, and available offline? These are all things you want to kind of think about before you get really invested in a password manager. While this slide does say don't trust me, you can definitely trust me. But if you want more information, I have links directly to various up-to-date recommendations from Wirecutter, Consumer Reports, PC Magazine, Wired, CNET, and Tom's Guide. For those of you who have been to a multitude of classes that we've done, you'll know that I really, really like Wirecutter, mainly because all of these other recommendation lists will have like 8 to 10 options, and Wirecutter kind of really narrows it down so you don't have that issue that some people have, and I definitely do, where if I'm given 10 options, I can't pick one. But if I'm given 2 options, it's totally fine. So I would definitely recommend reading Wirecutter. It has a lot of information on there, and you can definitely look at, all of these and kind of figure out, which one is in the top 3 for all of them, and then kind of go from there. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, how can I really trust my password manager? Because, just because they say they're secure and they say they've never been hacked, how can I really trust them? And that is a viable question. So the answer to that is you can salt your passwords. And not to make this too complicated, salting is basically where you have a piece of information that only you know. So in this example, your password manager would know your password, but you wouldn't want it to. So what you would do is you would salt that password. And what I mean by that is if your password manager knows your password and it plugs it into a website, then your password manager 100% knows your password. Now what you can do is you can give your password manager almost all of the password. And then you take that information, you put it, so you don't have to remember it, you put that into your password field, and then you type something like your name or, 1834 or something. And that information is known only to you. The negative about that is the autofill kind of doesn't work as nice and it takes a little bit longer. And I fully understand I may not have explained that to everyone's satisfaction, but if later on you ask me about salting, we can definitely go through an example of how to do it and whether or not it's for you. Another question I get asked is, what does Tim use? I always feel weird about the third person thing, but I've kept it. So I currently use KeePass, Dropbox, Google Chrome, and Firefox. So basically, just as soon as I've been done telling you guys that you shouldn't use the password managers built into web browsers, I say I use two of them. And this is for kind of accounts that aren't as, that I don't need to use as securely as others. So, for example, my banking passwords are not in Google Chrome or Firefox. But if I have a subscription to New York Times or Netflix, yeah, they're in Google Chrome and Firefox, just so I don't have to deal with it. So I log into Netflix, it's right there, it works, I don't have to mess around with a password manager. Here is a list of websites that you can click on to find the downloads for various, or more information about the various different password managers. We have KeePass, which is my recommended offline password manager. And then we have LastPass, Bitwarden, Dashlane, 1Password, Keeper, which are good paid options. Bitwarden does have a free option. And then Trezor, which is basically my favorite hardware application. But again, it's kind of a pain to deal with, so not always recommended. Anyway, we blazed through that in about 20 minutes. So this is the part where Mary will unmute everybody and you can ask questions before I go through the step-by-step process of how to set up a password manager and use it. Or if Mary has anything she'd like to add.
I lost my video connection.
Well, I will say losing the video connection is going to be not bad for the past part, but the next part's going to be pretty vital. I mean, generally with losing a video connection, I recommend just honestly leaving the meeting and rejoining, because that kind of goes through the 10-step process of trying to figure out what's wrong in one step.
Okay, here I go.
Yeah, if there are any questions, or if you don't have any, we can go on and I'll wait until about like, I don't know, 1:27.
I have a question for you, Tim.
There you go.
Yep.
How often do you change the password to the password manager?
So the password I use to get into the password manager, I honestly don't change, mainly because mine is like a 30 long string of random stuff, and I don't want to have to memorize another thing like that.
Okay. All right.
As for other passwords, I generally will change them about once a year if I'm worried at all about the contents of it. So like my banking password, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But other passwords, I don't really change, honestly. And one reason for that is a lot of these password managers have a password checker built in. And what that means is, in previous classes, we've gone over Have I Been Pwned, I think. That's the name of the website. And that will basically check to see if your password or account has been involved in any data breach. And what these password managers will do is they will take the first 5 characters of your password and they will check to see if that password has been leaked online. And if it has been leaked, then they let you know and they say, hey, you should probably change your password. And if not, then your password hasn't shown up on any kind of leaked list. The other time I will change a password is, for example, whenever Target got breached some years ago, I went ahead and changed my Target password.
Yeah.
So generally, I advocate having a strong password in the first place versus changing it often, because that's how you lead to really simple passwords.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Any questions before we go on? Great. Thanks, Tim. Let's go.
Cool. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Bitwarden password manager. We're going to look at it for two reasons. One is if we go to Wirecutter, it is rated as the best budget pick. And by budget, it means free. So all of these other ones are going to run you about, $25 to $40 a year, which honestly isn't a gratuitous amount of money, but that's still more money than I want to pay. So I go with Bitwarden, which is free. You can also get the non-free version of Bitwarden, and not to sound too salesy, but it's a pretty decent deal in terms of how much you get for the cost. As always, you will hear my keyboard, and that just lets you know that this is live. So if you go to Bitwarden, this is the site you're going to be looking at, and I will make it a little bit bigger.
Thank
So
you.
the first thing we're going to be looking at is kind of how to get started and log in. And if you have looked at this page for any length of time, you'll notice that the top right hand side has a get started and log in link. So right before we do that, I'm also just going to show you the pricing. The free account will give you all of this for free, and then $10 a year will let you have premium. So it's generally even paid. It's one of the cheaper ones. And here you can see the individual plans and features. The big one that you gain if you pay for it is the ability to add multiple users. And we can kind of go over what that means in a little bit. But we're going to go to Get Started. Click on it. Enter my email address, my name, and I need a master password. So this is a good time to discuss how to make a good master password, because while your password manager is going to take care of all of the guesswork of having a secure password, away from you so you don't have to worry about it, you do have to make an initial password. So I'm going to open up a notepad document and bring it over and go over some ways to make a good password. Let's just blow this up a little bit. 48, there we go. Nah, higher. Let's go 72. Whew. All right, now we're talking in big type. So, all right, strong password. So, what makes a strong password is number one, length. If you have a password that is 3 letters, that's incredibly easy to guess. If you have a password that is a whole bundle of letters, that's harder to guess. If you have a password with numbers, symbols, uppercase, and it's long, that's the best option. But realistically, no one is going to remember the third option unless you're crazy like me and you spend 2 years of your life memorizing it. So, how can we make this and remember it? There are a couple of different ways. One way is to, and my personal favorite, is to essentially take a phrase that you know very well. I picked the Star Spangled Banner, so hands off, it's mine. And you kind of go with the first letter of each word. But for this instance, I'll do my favorite Calvin and Hobbes poem, which is, "My tiger friend has packed a snack. We're all set for the trip ahead. We're never coming back." So, what we have here is a fairly random assortment of letters. We have A capital, And then, I mean, we can just be excited about the sentence and replace the A's with @ signs. And while this isn't the best password known to man, mainly because it's now on the internet and all of you know it, just looking at it, it looks fairly secure to me. That's going to take a while for a computer to guess. And by a while, I mean I'll be dead before a computer guesses that password. So that is one option. Take a phrase, take the first letter of each word, and kind of go with it. And you can also add punctuation in there as well, like you can with the exclamation mark. Another option is to take, for example, like your third favorite book on the third page, pick the third letter or the third word. So let's say it's that. Let's make it capitalized. Take the year you bought your dog or cat. And let's go with the last 4 of my social. Just kidding. Just something random. So I will pick the closest thing to me, which is desk. So this doesn't look that crazy. It's also not that great. So let's add another one, zebra. So it's weird, but I'm gonna have a pretty easy time of guessing class 2015 desk zebra. I'm gonna remember that. It's a lot easier to just kind of write it down. This is kind of like the alphabet song where I would have to sing it to myself before I remember if P is before R. But this, I'll remember it with a little bit of time. So a couple different words, kind of random, but so that you can remember. So class 2015 desk zebra. Copy. And that is my master password. It will check to see if the password is strong or not. It says it's strong. I'll believe it. And then master password hint is no. Perfect. You notice Brave wants to save my password. I'm going to hit no. So now I just log in with the master password I just created. Log in. And we're good. We are in my vault. And I hope that is large enough for everyone to see. If not, it's going to be difficult. Oh, John Willis, that is a great question. What if you made a typo, such as C for snack? Will you never be able to reconstruct your password? Great question. You are able to change your password. But one thing to note is you really want to remember it the first time. So I normally say never write anything down. But this password, it's so important that I would write it down. And my write it down is slightly different than other people's. I've gone over this before, but my favorite thing to do is basically get a plaque, a short little engraving thing. And they're really not that expensive. I know Etsy really has some cheap ones, and $5. And you basically will just put your password on this. I mean, the bad thing about it is this random person who does the engraving will know that this bundle of letters, numbers, and symbols means something to me. But odds are they probably won't care. And even if they do, who's going to guess it's for a password manager? So there are upsides and downsides to doing the metal engraving technique. I like it mainly because if my house burns down, password's still there. And I would always recommend put one in a safe location, like a safety deposit box, so that if your house burns down, you don't have to go through the rubble to find your password key on a little metal plate in the rubble. Since we're being all bright and cheery right now.
So you're not recommending tattooing it on your arm?
Feel free. I honestly, if I saw a random string of letters, numbers, and symbols, I wouldn't immediately think, oh, that's that person's password to his password manager.
All right. Thank you.
But yep, I like metal, mainly because it doesn't burn. So the first thing you'll notice is on the top right hand side, it says verify email. So it wants me to verify my email. So I will go over to my email. I have a nice little welcome message. I'll click on that. Oh, whoops. So I will hit send email. I will go to my email, go to updates, Bitwarden, click on verify my email address. It will want me to log back in, copy, paste, login. So now I am back in my password manager. Now, some of you may be thinking that I'm just showing you how to use Bitwarden. How will you use the other ones if you want to go with something like LastPass or 1Password? And they're all very similar. So basically, if you learn how to do this one, you'll have a very good understanding of how to do all of the other ones. So, of course, since this is a free version, it will, in the top right-hand corner, constantly remind you that you can go premium if you want. That's pretty much the only downside. So, on the left-hand side, we see filters. This is where you can search for your passwords. So imagine I have 100 passwords in here, 100 different accounts, and I want to look up one for Macy's. All I would do is in the search bar, type in Macy's. Another option you can do is you can narrow it by type. So it has login, credit card, identity, or secure note. And the third option you can do is you can create a folder. So for example, I can do a folder called online shopping. So I know if I'm shopping online, I can just click on the online shopping folder and it'll be in there. Similarly, I can go to online banking, save, and I can put all my online banking information on here. So this is actually what I do. So I have all of my online and bill paying in one folder. So at the beginning of every month, I just go through all of them, click, 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 and pay them all off. But what works for me may not work for everyone. So this is what it looks like, the online version. So one thing with Bitwarden is they do have multiple ways to use it. So real quick, we're going to show how to download the apps. So if you go to the main page again and you go to download, you can now click on desktop apps. So this is the desktop version of Bitwarden, and then they also have web browser versions of Bitwarden. So we're going to go click on the Windows version, click on it, download it. I will now open up my downloads folder, Bitwarden. I will double click. I will allow it to make changes, and I will install it. One benefit with something like Bitwarden or a paid password manager is that you can kind of make sure it's syncing. So it'll sync between all of your devices. In this case, I can show that it's syncing to my desktop application and to the online version. So I'm just going to log in real quick. Once again, my master password. This is the one I need to remember. Master password. There we go. Paste. Log in. And it says there's no items on the list. Real quickly, I'm just going to show you that they are syncing by adding an item. We will call this a test. And save. Now you'll notice that there still isn't anything showing up. So either I haven't done my research or there's an option to sync. So if you go to File and you go to Sync, now it will sync and I will have all of my information. So in this scenario, you can pretend like one of these devices is my phone. So what this means is I can, on the computer, make a change, update my passwords, and then I will also have the information on my phone or laptop or secondary computer. Another thing to kind of realize is the online version is generally what you will be using if you are at someone else's house or using someone else's computer. And you would log into it, vault.bitwarden.com, you would log in, and then you would have access to all of your passwords. Now, whenever you are done, I would make sure to just leave the page. So if I'm using someone else's computer and I'm done getting my password, all I have to do is hit this X and close the window. Now, if I go and try to log in, it prompts me to log in again. So all the information is kind of cleared from their computer, and it forces me to reassess who I am, to kind of, it reprompts me for the username and password. Login. So we're good. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you before I get into actually how to use this is browser extensions. So most people will be using this as a browser extension, primarily because it's easier and it honestly looks better. So I'm in my Vault Bitwarden. If I go to my user profile on the top right and I hit Get the Apps, it'll take me to the main Bitwarden page. I will go to Download, which is in the top. I will scroll down until I see my web browser. Right now, I'm using Brave, so I will hit Brave. It's an extension. It has a remarkably high satisfaction rating, and I will click Add to Brave. I will confirm that I want to add the extension, and now I have the Brave extension. So you may be wondering, well, sure, you have the Brave extension, but I don't really see how to use it. And that's a great point. If you look in the top right-hand corner, there is now a little Bitwarden icon. It's kind of difficult to see because it's gray, but if I click on it, it will now prompt me to log in. So once again, I will log in.
Your picture is there. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
Copy the password.
Yep.
Paste the password. And hit return. And now I'm logged in as a browser. So one negative thing we're going to experience with this is it is more difficult for you to see what I'm doing on the browser plugin just because it's smaller. So we're going to be doing a quick overview on the browser plugin, and then we'll go back to the main web-based one to kind of continue on. So in this example, I'm going to create a Macy's login. Macy's. So I have the plugin. It now turned blue because I've logged into it. If I hit sign in my account, and I hit to no account yet, create account, it will now give me the option to create an account. What I can also do is I can click on the Bitwarden tab, and it will notice that I have no Macy's accounts, and it will now prompt me to add a login. So I'll hit add login, and it will ask me for my information. So username is generally going to be your email address. And it will now give me some ability to choose a password. So this button will allow me to check to see if a password has been exposed. So basically this will check to see if the password is in a known breach. The eye icon will allow me to see the password to make sure I spelled everything correctly. And this will allow me to generate a password. So kind of the recycle logo. So if I hit that, it will start to generate a password. Now, if you notice, there are a couple of options here, and I don't want you to get kind of overwhelmed because they're pretty simple. The first option is length. So how long do you want your password to be? Generally, longer is better. If you notice up at the top here, it will give me a random password as I continue to change these. So I'm going to set this to 20. Uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. I personally like symbols. So some of you may have an account like Netflix, and if you are familiar with Netflix and how you need to log into it on like a TV, it's kind of a pain. It's a huge pain to type all of these symbols and uppercase, lowercase, switching between that on your TV or Apple TV or Chromecast or whatever you're using. So one option you can do is you can hit passphrase. So under options, password, you switch it to passphrase. And what this allows you to do is just make a password that has random words. So right now it says, actually that's kind of difficult to pronounce for me, so we are going to change that. Shifter contest ripening could. Perfect. Love that password. So it's a fairly long password, which is generally what you want to get. And then you can also include a number. So manner, quiet, hunkiness, 6, clutter. So that's the password. And the reason why you'd want to use this is, as I just said, it's a lot easier to type something like this into Netflix or kind of whenever you can't use a keyboard. So that is an option. But we will go back to password and I will select. So I like that password. View it, copy it, password, paste. All right, first name, B. Birthday, I don't really want to. Whoops. Real good. Password.
There.
Paste. Username. Okay, so folder, no folder. I'm going to put this in my online shopping folder that I created earlier. Now, notes. This is probably my favorite section. If you're familiar with, apparently Macy's doesn't do it, but a lot of online kind of companies will have password questions that you can use to recover your password. This is where I put it in the notes. So, for example, one of the common ones is, where did you go to high school? So, I will just prompt that high school. Apparently, I spelled high school wrong. Nope. And you don't actually want to give your real high school. So, Peanut. I went to high school at Peanut. Now, no one is going to guess and be able to get into my account via the recovery options by knowing what high school I went to. So that's just one of the options you can do with notes. Save. So I basically have now created a Macy's login. Create account. Please enter date of birth. Cool. Because no one lies on these things. So that's another thing I can put in the notes section, is my fake date of birth, just in case I want to remember. Yes, update now. Never? No. Okay. I have successfully created a Macy's account. So to test this, we are going to hover and sign out. So now we are signed out of Macy's. And one thing, if you have particularly good eyesight, which I don't, but in the top right hand corner, the Bitwarden icon, it has a number next to it. It has a 1. And what that means is that Bitwarden has found a login to Macy's. So what I do is I click on Bitwarden, say, oh, okay, it has the account. So I click sign in. I'll click on Bitwarden. And then I'll click on the account. So I clicked on Macy's and it auto-filled the information automatically. And then I hit sign in. Complete your profile. Oh, it wants a mobile number. Okay. So you kind of saw how easy that was. Stop, honey. All right. So I'll just do that again. So basically I went through the process of setting up a Macy's account. I'm going to log out. Sign out. Pretty please. Apparently Mary's internet isn't the only one who has had bad internet today. Or it could be on Macy's end.
True.
I'll blame Macy's on that one.
Okay.
So I'm not signed in. I will click sign in. I should have gone with Best Buy. All right. So as you can see, Bitwarden has a little number next to it. I will click on Bitwarden. I will click on Macy's. It will automatically populate the login information, and I will hit sign in. So besides Macy's being incredibly slow today, one thing I personally take away is once I have the password manager set up, it's actually faster than me even trying to type in the password, right? Because normally I would have to type in my username, and I always forget to use the @ sign, and then I have to type in my password, and I may mess it up the first time. And with Bitwarden, and pretty much any browser extension, I just click, and done. And that's all you need to do.
That's sort of amazing. But Tim, is there a concern about leaving that browser extension open?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in order to show you the browser extension options, we're actually going to go back to the main web vault because, and you're welcome, but I know that was probably pretty difficult to see. So under settings, and these are the same on the browser extension and all that sort of stuff. If I go to options, there's a vault timeout. Okay. So basically, there are a couple of options. The most annoying one is 1 minute. I don't know why you would do that because that sounds like a huge pain. But basically, right now I have it set on 15 minutes. So after not using this or not using the browser extension for 15 minutes, you automatically have to re-log into Bitwarden. A more kind of just easier approach, but it's not as secure, is to do a vault timeout on browser refresh. What this means is whenever you start using your computer, using your browser, you log in once and then it remains open until you close your browser. So the benefit of this is you have to log in once and then that's it. You can use it as much as you want, and then whenever you're done, you just have to remember to close the browser. And then whenever you open the browser the next time, you will have to re-put in your master password. The downside is, once again, if you are in that theoretical coffee shop and you have Bitwarden logged in and you leave, if someone knows to look in the top right hand corner to see if there's a Bitwarden icon, they would be able to access your passwords. It's slightly more secure than, just Google Chrome or Firefox because they kind of automatically do everything. And at least with Bitwarden, you kind of have to know this is there and click on it. But you still want to kind of be protective about your computer. whenever it's open. So personally, I would use on browser refresh and just kind of make it a habit to, whenever I'm not using the browser, just close it. But then again, I also use a hardware-based one. So vault timeout action, you have two options. You can lock it, or it will log you out. Functionally, they're relatively the same thing. Basically, either way, you need to re-log in with your master password. We're not going to really go over these options, but feel free to ask me about organizations or two-step login in a little bit. So we were asked a question earlier about, can you redo your password? And the answer is yes. So if you log in, go to My Account, scroll down. Not only can you change your email that is used, you can also change your master password. So warning, it basically says, remember the new password. Current, new, and you can change it. One thing that I find really cool is if we go to test, right? And I type in a new password, enter, say I need to change that password again, enter. Some of you may be like, oh, but for some reason, I need to know a previous password. Or if you messed it up somehow and you need to access your previous password, or you just didn't actually change it, but now all you see is this new password that isn't what it currently is, you can scroll down and it has this information. So it tells me that this was updated August 18th, 2020 at 1:57, and the password was last updated August 18th, 2020 at 1:57. And I can also see password history too. So this will tell me when I had the password, when I had it changed. So you can see my first password was here, test, and then this random jumble of letters was my second password, and then here's my third password. So functionally, this may not really be that important, but there's going to be one time when it'll be useful. So if you open up the item, you can see all of your past passwords. Another thing this is useful for is if you aren't sure if you've changed a password in a while, and you click on this and you see 2016, you know you really haven't changed it in a while, and you can change it.
Great, thank you.
Another thing you can do is that, so these are logins. If I go to card, add item, so I clicked on type, card, add item, this will allow me to add a credit card. What this lets me do is whenever I log into Amazon or any kind of online store, is I can save my credit card information so I don't have to pull it out of my wallet and type in the security code because I continually forget it. So I can put in my card, folder, brand, cardholder name, number, all the information about my credit card, and that way I don't have to have my card on me, I don't have to pull it out, I don't even have to remember where it is, though that's not a good idea. And you can use your credit card from within your password manager. The next thing you can do is identity. So what the identity is these are basically who you are. So if, for example, you have two properties, one here, because you like the colors and it's just generally, the top 3 state of where to live, but you also want to go down to Florida in the summer when it's not COVID season, you can have 2 addresses, and then in Bitwarden, whenever you're prompted to autofill, so whenever you're prompted to autofill your address, your location, you can choose between the 2, and it will fill out all the relevant information about it. The last option is a secure note. So this is kind of like, if we go to the test one, the notes right here, these are also secure notes. But we can make a secure note that isn't tied to an account. Now, I personally don't really have a function for this, but it could be useful for remembering things like, this house we went to has a password to unlock the door of 4372. And you can type that in, vacation house. Vacation house 37, because we are all abundantly wealthy. And okay, I get back to vacation house 37 after spending a day on the beach. I have completely forgotten the 4-digit code. Here it is. You just pull out your phone, you open the Bitwarden app, and you just go to my secure notes section. There are other ways to do this. Sometimes you can put down, if you have your dog chipped, you can write down the chip number. You can write down any medication you're allergic to, just in case you forget. I do. So any of that type of information you can put in the secure notes section. Now, I just want to go over the password generator once again, mainly because it's one of the main functions of this. So I will require some audience participation, and by audience participation, I of course mean Mary, because it's difficult for me to view anyone else. So Mary, do you remember which one of these, or what the benefit of one of these over the other is?
Well, the
Password versus
passphrase just allows you to choose some random words and perhaps memorize them a little more easily.
Yeah, like these wonderful selection of words.
And
Antonym, armrest, and zit.
Zit. Zit I would
yeah.
remember.
So this is for passwords that you need to type in often on something that isn't a keyboard, because finding the @ symbol on a phone keyboard can be annoying, or definitely it's annoying when trying to type into a TV. And you can choose passphrase, and that password is for pretty much everything else. Another question you may ask is, well, Chrome has been collecting my password data for like 10 years now. Is there a way for me to just take the password information that's in Chrome and just add it to Bitwarden without having to, just look side by side and copy everything over? And yes, you are able to do that. If you go to Tools and Import Data, you will be able to basically import from any of these different options. The important one is Chrome and Firefox. So you just click on that, you go to the file that you've downloaded from Chrome, and you hit import. Now you may ask yourself, I don't know how to download that from Chrome. They make a very nice set of instructions. See detailed instructions on our help site. And if you click on this, it will take you to the 4-step process for saving your passwords from Chrome, and then the 4-step process to import the passwords from Chrome into Bitwarden. So we have kept it to just around an hour of me showing you how to set up, download the 2 different ways and the one online way to use Bitwarden, and how to set up an account. Are there any questions? Because I realize I kind of may have rushed through some of that, so if someone wants me to set up another account, I can totally do that. But honestly, the most important thing is the most important takeaway from this is there's a section in this presentation, in the video, that's about 5 minutes long, and that goes over how to set up an account at Macy's. And then you can use that for pretty much every online retailer if you have forgotten how to do that. And more importantly than that is just to download, sign up, and start using it, because it'll become very second nature once you get used to it.
And remind me again, Tim, is Bitwarden, can you use it offline, or do you have to be online?
Yeah, so because Bitwarden has a desktop app, as you can see, it's also already updated all the things we put in it. This is available offline for me to use.
Okay.
So
Great.
one benefit of this is if necessarily you're on vacation and you have your laptop or your phone or something, but if it's not connected to the internet, you can view your information. So if you keep things in here like, you know, what people are allergic to, or you keep stuff in here like the Vacation House 37, you don't need to be connected to the internet to have that information.
Okay. That makes sense. Does anybody have any questions for Tim? All right. Well, Tim, I think you finally convinced me to give up my Excel spreadsheet that I secretly named miscellaneous so nobody would know that it was passwords.
Taxes is too obvious, so I respect miscellaneous.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I go out and use these. It's amazing what it's capable of and how simple it is to use. So thank you very much, Tim,
And
for showing that to
before
us.
everyone signs off, remember that tomorrow from noon till 1, we have the tech drop-in. And I would be more than happy to answer any lingering questions you have, because I guarantee there's going to be something, just one little thing, that you find kind of funky, and you may want a second opinion on what that means. And we can go over that tomorrow. And as always, you can email Mary with a question, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
And if you need the link to that tech drop-in, it's on the website. Just go to peterborotownlibrary.org, go to events, and you'll see the drop-in, and the link is right there. So you just click on that link. And we do it on a first come, first serve basis. So sometimes you're in the waiting room for a few minutes, but Tim usually gets to everyone. So thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.